Hi, my name's Shelley. I'm the Director of Nursing at Sturt Private Hospital. Thank you for meeting with me today. I'm here to discuss with you the government contract that Sturt Private Hospital is tendering for in order to provide services to an additional 400 patients. Now, as you can see in my report and Excel spreadsheet that you've got in front of you, I've come up with the cost behaviours and break-even analysis for this tender. With the analysis of the data that has been provided to me, I believe taking on this tender would be in the best interest of Sturt Private Hospital, and here is why. So as you can see on my board here, I've got my variable costs of $1,250, my fixed cost of $260,000. So my contribution margin is the balance of sales minus the variable costs, the balance of sales being $1,650, the variable cost being $1,250, therefore the contribution margin is $400. The break-even point is the fixed costs divided by sales revenue per unit minus variable cost per unit. Therefore, the fixed cost being $260,000 divided by $1,650 minus $1,250 makes my break-even point $650. The extra costs involved with taking on the extra tender would be the number of patients minus the times the variable costs. Therefore, my additional number of patients, 400, times the variable cost of $1,250, my extra costs would come to a total of $500,000. The minimum tender for Sturt Private Hospital to break even, once again, will be my number of patients, so my additional 400 patients times the break-even point of $650. Therefore, my minimum tender to break even, or the minimum tender for Sturt Private Hospital to break even, is $260,000. When it comes to Sturt Private Hospital's profitability, I've worked out the annual contribution margin, which would be $360,000. If you minus the fixed costs from that, which is $260,000, the profitability for Sturt Private Hospital would be $100,000, and that's just with the 900 patients. If we work out the annual contribution margin with the extra 400 patients, so 1,300 patients in total, it's $520,000 minus the fixed costs, which remain the same, of $260,000. Therefore, the $520,000 minus the $260,000, we end up with a profit of $260,000 with the 1,300 patients. So that's an extra $160,000 with just the extra 400 patients. If Sturt Private Hospital were to bid $427,000 for this tender, that then makes us in a positive of $160,000 if we were to take on this tender. You've also got to remember that with the fixed costs remaining the same, no matter how many patients are added, this will bring our fixed cost per patient down. So the more patients we add, the lower the fixed cost will be per patient. This tender would also need to be discussed with the stakeholders, obviously, in order to make sure that they can accommodate these extra costs. The bottom line is that the profit of $167,000 is vital to Sturt Private Hospital, as we're a private enterprise and we require an income to run the business. My recommendation would be to benchmark with other private hospitals and ensure we are competitive. And my final recommendation would be to take on this tender based on the data that I have just presented to you, as we are in a profit of $167,000. I've also got a graph here which shows the Sturt Private Hospital break-even analysis, which will be on my report that you have in front of you, and you can look at that a bit more closely later on. However, it does show my break-even point, the fixed cost, the income, total expenses and the profit of taking on this tender. Thank you.